Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ragale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale. Ohaya gunzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bojo, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasal, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabia, bhalli kare aaya. Hoj galden and ayo sayo, khuyamora, chibato, chi hal jod, kalimera, khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajar, assalamu alaikum. How was your commute to work today?
Walaikum assalam. That is another story and I will tell you after the program. But however, today happens to be 2nd of October 2024 and it is the death anniversary of one of the very legendary artists that PTV has shared the screen with. And Shahzad, why don't you take the lead?
Exactly. So ladies and gentlemen, obviously whenever I was supposed to learn about hosting, or I thought that I need to learn, I think I already did look up to this gentleman. His name is Umar Sharif, veteran comedian, actor, director, producer and stage artist. Umar Sharif Saab obviously is remembered today on his 3rd death anniversary. Umar Sharif Saab was known all over the world to his fans as king of comedy. He gained unparalleled popularity in the 1980s and 90s as a comedian, actor, director, producer and stage artist. The actor actually, Hajar, started his career at 14 with stand-up comedy and worked in around 60 stage comedies and television shows. He also produced, directed and acted in 2 big movies. He was so spontaneous in humor that at times the people would start laughing even before he would start cracking his jokes. He was born on April 19th, 1955. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you remember him in your prayers, because the kind of laughter that he's shared with the world, not just Pakistan. He was not just a Pakistani artist or the king of comedy. He was known world over, for his comic timing as well. And Umar Sharif Saab, we're remembering you. We will always remember you and the kind of contributions you've made towards our industry.
And that's very true, and I think that making people laugh is one of the very difficult things, and especially in an environment that we are living in today. So now moving on to another top story of the program, which is very interesting bit, because there was a squirrel and that squirrel finds itself in a very tight spot because it was chased by none other than a very fastest running animal
on a tree.
in
imagine that they were caught on a tree together with the leopard.
So there was a race going on, but the squirrel outsmart the leopard. So a squirrel found itself in a very dangerous spot. One of the very interesting anecdote, because my mother used to tell us, because my younger siblings and we used to fight, and she used to say, go fight with someone who's your own size, right? So I think leopard should find someone who's his own size, but I think the squirrel also was poking constantly on the ego of the leopard.
Exactly, and that's what squirrel did. Squirrel actually earned a lot of dignity by doing what she did, because or he did.
Interesting.
Because imagine that now from here onward, from Africa, I'm going to take you to New Zealand, where we do know how famous is their haka dance. They do it in their football. They do it everywhere. Imagine, so they did a haka dance and broke the record, which was earlier held with France, and then they brought it back home, and they brought back a lot of prestige, a lot of dignity for themselves as well. So ladies and gentlemen, New Zealand has set the world record for the most people to perform haka, a traditional dance of the country's indigenous Maori, reclaiming the title from France. A statement by Auckland's Eden Park, which hosted the record attempt on Sunday, said 6,531 people had performed Kamate, the haka, which surpassed the current record of 4,028 people held by France since 2014. Haka is an important part of our culture in turning the mana, which means the prestige of this world record, away from the French. Wow, I think congratulations to you for bringing back a record, and that too in haka dance. I think probably one day we could do it with Bhangra as well, yeah. Wow. I think Bhangra is more of our Punjabi culture. Now from New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to take you where... No, not back to Pakistan. Imagine that, for a dinosaur skull, which has been around for so many years, hundreds of years, has actually been found as well. So paleontologists, ladies and gentlemen, found the incredibly well-preserved bone of the adult Pachy rhinoceros, dubbed Big Sam, underground near Grand Prairie in Alberta, Canada.
Wow, and I think it's a well-preserved bone of the adult, which was dubbed as the Big Sam. And
Big
obviously, it was in the Alberta, Canada, like Shahzad mentioned. And this was thick-nosed lizard that was a plant-eating dinosaur that was believed
Just
to
look at it, how massive it is.
yeah, the cousin of another important dinosaur. So researchers believe that the based of the size of the bones found so far, the dinosaurs' speckles were the same as the size of an Indian elephant or a rhino. So I think it's like a more of a a smaller size elephant.
It looks dangerous.
Right? Yeah.
That
No.
big.
It was a plant eating. It was not a carnivorous. Right? Yeah.
What if it stomp on you,
Yeah,
it's still dangerous.
But we are really glad that we have passed that age where dinosaurs used to roam around. But they are very interesting movies, especially in the Hollywood, like Jurassic Park, which has really sparked our fancier thinking about how the world would look like with the dinosaurs around.
And now, Haja, what we'll do is that we'll bring you to Bahrain and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Now, imagine, ladies and gentlemen, obviously Pakistan has shared, beautiful diplomatic relations with Bahrain. We've had people, from our federal ombudsman over here to talk about how they've been going to multiple countries where the ombudsman is practicing as well, and there's an ombudsman exchange organization which goes with the name of OICOA, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
Is that true? Yeah, that's true.
Very
We have the guest over here as well. So imagine this exchange program took place where the I think federal tax ombudsman is actually hosting these delegates, 5 amazing delegates from Bahrain, and they will be delivering lectures over here. But I think that there are people we need to thank. So first of all, I'm going to thank the Mrs. Ghada Hamid Habib, the ombudsman of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Not just that, Mr. Asim Mahmouja, the general secretary of the OICOA Ombudsman Association International Collaboration, and the executive secretary, Mr. Almas Ali Javinda Saab. You've been here multiple times.
True.
So what is the purpose behind it? Why are they here? What places did they go to? Let's just kind of unfold the conversation. We're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, that we've been joined by these wonderful delegates or ombudsmen from Bahrain. First up happens to be the Chief of Development Division, Ombudsman Office of Bahrain. He is Muhammad Tawfiq Ali. Taki, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's
here.
wonderful to have you over here. The energy is great, and alongside him, we're very lucky that we have been joined by the Investigation Specialist Directorate of Complaints, Ombudsman Office of Bahrain, Ms. Marwa Ahmed Abdul Rahman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here.
It's a pleasure having both of you. So now let's unfold a conversation, and we will start with you, Taki Saab. So, what is the idea of this cross-pollination of with regards to ombudsman between the two countries? Because law is something that is very context-specific, right? Country-specific. Pakistan has its own set of the laws. Bahrain has its own sets of the laws regarding the conditions, nationality, and different things that are taken into the view. So, what is the purpose of that? And so far, how has been this cross-pollination of ideas going on?
Yes, thank you first of all for having us. Glad to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank on behalf of Mrs. Ghada Hamid Habib, the Ombudsperson of the Kingdom of Bahrain, to extend the thanks and warm gratitude to Dr. Asif Jah, Honorable Ombudsperson of Federal Tax of Pakistan, and Mr. Almas Ali Javinda, the Executive Secretary of OICOA, for making this happen, this training program, making it successful and productive, and giving this exposure to us, to the delegation of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
And we thank you on behalf of the entire Pakistani nation for joining us as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So regarding the training program, it's a great opportunity for us, delegation of Bahrain, to look into the different institutions of ombudsman in Pakistan. Since Pakistan, it's the leading figure in ombuds offices with 14 offices in Pakistan that covers various sects such as insurance, banking, and
even you can go and complain about government employees.
Yes,
yeah. Then there's harassment. There's so many of them. Yeah.
Can we complain about like the roads not proper and there's a huge lot of complaints? This is coming from a very personal tone.
Absolutely. I mean, Pakistan is a pillar in ombuds offices, and having that knowledge and visiting these great institutions will reflect positively as in our work and even in our offices as well back in Bahrain.
I think it's wonderful, which is why I'm going to move on to Ms. Marwa over here as well. So now the conversation is obviously about ombudsman, a lot of people bringing in complaints and whatnot. And we do know Mr. Almas Ali Javinder has been over here on the show multiple times, and he tells us that, that we make sure that we resolve it in record time. Is it the same way in Bahrain as well? And if we are to talk about record time, you are the one who's responsible for investigations and complaints. So how do you make sure that these are the complaints to chase, follow, or abandon?
First of all, as my colleague Mr. Mohammed mentioned, I would like to thank Ms. Qadi Habib for this opportunity to be here in Pakistan, and Dr. Asif and Mr. Almas. And about the complaints, we receive them. We don't have due date or due time as Pakistan.
Okay.
Pakistan here, they have like 30 days.
And you have to do it in
sorry,
between
60 days.
Yeah.
Until their due date. For us in Bahrain, we don't really have a time limit.
Okay.
But we do follow up the complaint and
Yeah,
Yes,
and
we
pursue
do,
them legally.
Pursue them
Yes.
legally, yes.
Yeah.
And we do follow up with the complainants, and we have a timeline as well from starting receiving the complaint and investigating the complaint itself and referring it to the relevant authority.
But Tawfiq Sam, we've seen that accountability is a very essential pillar in the dispensation of justice, right? And
Absolutely.
you're dealing with the justice, with the matters of public complaints.
Mhm.
And Ombudsman is a very important, and it has a huge responsibility on its rank, right?
Yes.
How do you ensure accountability and then also transparency? Because when we talk about the good governance, dispensation of justice, these are very important pillars of that. How do you do that in Bahrain?
Absolutely. I mean, as an Ombuds office in Bahrain, we have 5 principles that we follow, which is integrity and transparency, accountability, independence, and impartiality. In every complaint that we receive, we ensure that these principles are covered,
Followed.
and followed up, and basically being very accessible to the complainants.
And I think that's something which is essential as well. And in addition to this, I think what we really need to talk about is, because we're talking about federal ombudsman, so
Absolutely.
I think it only applicates somewhere in the federal capital of the Islamabad.
Yes.
Now, if you are to speak about the jurisdiction of Bahrain, if any one of you would love to speak about it, the ombudsman of Bahrain,
Yes.
how does your jurisdiction work? Is it all of Bahrain? Is it only the government institutes? How does that work?
Well, actually, we have a specific mandate that we
Okay.
follow, a specific jurisdiction. We receive complaints against the police personnel. Let's say if a police officer has mistreated a complainant, this complainant can come to us
Okay.
and file and lodge the complaint. We investigate the complaint, and we refer the complaint at a later stage to the relevant authorities, and as an oversight body, we issue recommendations as well.
Wow.
Right. So, Mr. Tawfiq, I would like to pursue a conversation on a very important topic, and one of the 5 pillars that you mentioned, and which is impartiality, right? And in the dispensation of justice, it is very, very much important,
Absolutely.
right? So, how do you ensure impartiality, especially in the Kingdom of Bahrain? And if you study and analyze the Pakistani model of the Ombudsman, how do you think we can have a more vibrant cross-pollination of ideas when we talk about the Ombudsperson? What is there which we can learn from Bahrain society, and what is there which Bahrain can learn from Pakistan society?
Yes, absolutely. Independence is a pillar and a main principle,
Yes, yes.
impartiality in any ombuds office around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So by ensuring impartiality and independence, the ombuds office should be should have its independent structure
Right.
and independent set of employees and independent budgetary.
Are they well
This is
paid?
common, yes.
I think
It's
we're,
important.
I
No,
think
it's
we're talking
important.
about Bahrain anyways. I
No,
think.
it's important
Yes.
because so that the money does not influences the pocket of the judges.
Exactly,
out
and
there,
that there
right?
is transparency as
Yes,
well. I
yes,
think
yes.
that's
Transparency
one
and
point that we really
integrity
need
as
to
well,
talk
yes.
about. Well, while we're at it,
Yeah.
I'll come back to you once again, and that is that why do you think that Pakistan was selected for such a study or tour and training? Do you think that there could have been any other country which you would have wanted to visit, or is it because of the efficiency of the ombudsman in Pakistan that made you come down over here? Whoever wants to answer,
efficiency-
it's your choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think the efficiency of the efficiency and the effectiveness of the ombuds offices in Pakistan led us to be here actually and to be part of this marvelous training
Wow.
program.
Right.
The experience.
Yes.
So
with
please
the-
enlighten us about your experience, Mavra. So how did you find, the hills of Nathia Gali specifically and the culture of Pakistan? Do you find it's a culturally proximate society to Bahrain?
Yes, me and my colleagues, we loved it here in Pakistan. It's exceeded our expectations. Yeah.
Can I ask you about your expectations? What were they in the first place?
We heard a lot of great comments and great things about Pakistan, but we didn't, يعني,
Experience
for
it,
yeah, we didn't experience anything like this
Really?
before. Yeah, it's my first time here, so it was great.
And while we were talking about Pakistan and how you went to Nathia Gali and how it must have been very cold and whatnot, do we have such places in Bahrain? Because we get to hear a lot about Bahrain as well. So do we have such colder places in Bahrain?
We have a nice winter in Bahrain, but I mean the scenery that we have experienced in the Murray Hills, I mean, fantastic, untouched nature and magnificent view to be up.
And what did you
up in
get
the
to eat?
mountains.
What did you get to eat? Let's talk about that a little as well.
Wow, the authentic
Pakistani.
Pakistani food, right?
Yeah.
Can you
Is it just too
remember
much
a
of
few
spices?
dishes?
Yeah, it's too spicy.
Yeah.
Was it chicken kadai, biryani?
Yeah, chicken
Yes.
karahi and jalverzi and
Jalfrezi, yes.
jalfrezi and the pilau rice, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that that
Yeah.
there's this one thing, mandi.
Yes.
So
That's
we
an
love it whenever we
Arabic,
go to the
yeah.
GCC countries as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it's just very famous. So you guys like having mutton and beef and whatnot,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
we like that too.
Yeah, we share that. Yeah. In our cuisine. Yeah.
I think that's
I think
what,
that's
and even
one-
Laban, Laban.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we get lassi over here. So it's
Right.
close to Laban, but it's
close.
not really Laban.
It's close. I mean,
Yeah, I think that is the same manifestation of the same beverage. But now moving a conversation back to the Ombudsman part, and obviously every society has a lot to offer in terms of the learning, in terms of the civilizational values, and which are embedded obviously, of course, in the law.
Absolutely.
But Mr. Tawfiq, we've seen that every country has different set of laws, right? I'm pretty sure Bahrain has its own set of laws which suits the needs of its own societies as compared to Pakistan. So when we are having the amalgamation of this society of the OIC ombudsperson, what was the initial idea or the driving force behind that, right? How can we learn when the laws are very context specific, and how can we create a more a culture, a bridge sort of a thing that we can learn from it?
I think the Secretary Executive, Mr. Almas Ali Jovinda, he's doing a marvelous job in bridging these gaps between us ombuds offices in the Asia region, setting up various training programs and development which will reflect positively the employees and investigators of the ombuds offices in the Asia region. In different themes, such as in good practice, investigation process, and we learn it. I mean, it's
a two-way process.
It's a two-way process. It's a joint cooperation and joint expertise.
I think the
exchange
common
expertise, yes.
theme, the thread that connects is like the Muslim Ummah, because it's the platform of the OIC,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
And I think the Muslim law or the divine law, the Sharia that we talks about it is more or less the same in all of the countries. But now moving forward, a conversation, Tawfiq, we've seen in Bahrain, Bahrain's ombudsman, if you can narrate for us, what are the most complaints that you have in the ombudsperson and how you able to resolve it? And if there is an interesting case study that you would like to put it out so that we can learn
Was it
as a
just about the
person,
police?
Yes, basically our scope, our mandate is to receive complaints against the police,
Yeah, that's
whether they were military officers or whether they were civilians under the payroll of the MOI.
Yeah.
Well, various cases such as physical assault cases,
Okay.
and we also have an interesting type of grievance that we have started back in 2015, which is assistance requests. These are actually requests made by the inmate or on behalf of the inmate, such as his family or his relatives. So let's say if an inmate wants a medical appointment, we can facilitate that process to him. He wishes to complete his education. We can facilitate
What
that
if he or
service
she
as well.
wishes to get married while they're 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 still inmates. Yeah,
That's a different thing.
whether it's possible or not.
Your marriage really fascinates Shehzad.
No, I mean it's not about marriage.
about.
I mean, imagine, you never know. It's not only the married men who are the inmates, right? So it can be the
Absolutely.
bachelors too. But while we're at it, I think what we really need to talk about is the dispensation of justice in Bahrain.
Absolutely.
Obviously about the Ombudsman, and in Pakistan, how would you rate that? Do you think that it's very effective and impactful, and they do it in record time?
It is very effective. I mean, we had the chance to visit the Federal Tax Ombudsman and the Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan and the Office of Protection of Harassment Against Women in Pakistan. And we have listened to lectures by senior officials of these great offices, and we believe that this exposure will reflect positively in our work, learning new methods, learning new procedures and practices. So we'll go back with abundance of wealth.
And that's the kind of interventional techniques that everybody needs to kind of learn while working for Ombudsman. And while we're at it, I think I have a question for Ms. Mawra as well. And it's a basic question, and that is that, so before coming to Pakistan, because you spoke about more than your expectations when you went to Nathia Gali and Murray Hills as well. Before coming to Pakistan, what did you think about Pakistan? And now finally, when you're in Pakistan, what do you think about Pakistan now?
Is it your first coming here, Pakistan?
This is the first time actually in Pakistan, yes, both of us.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. We're 5, and it's our first time in Pakistan, me, Mr. Muhammad.
So when you got to know that you're coming to Pakistan, how did you prepare for it?
I was so excited about this training, and I've researched in TikTok and Instagram about a little bit about Pakistan. I didn't expect this welcoming hospitality, the people, the culture, everyone was so nice to us.
They're very welcoming, the warmth of the Pakistani people, I mean, marvelous.
Thank you so much. I would like to continue with these trainings anyways.
I think the hospitality is one thing that we also share with the Arabic societies, a lot of Arabic societies. And TikTok and Instagram are interesting tools, which are available to us to find out about other cultures, because they're very personalized voices. But
and we are the 5th largest content creators as well.
Oh,
so
really?
One last question before we wrap up our segment, and Tawfiq Saab, that is addressed to you, and anyone can answer, obviously.
Sure.
Which is that when we talk about the OIC, right? It's a platform of the Muslim Ummah, right? And when we talk about the dispensation of justice, there are laws within the Sharia that advocate for the capital punishment, for example, theft, for example, all of these. And we see in the modern world, particularly West, there are lots of voices that are coming and that are very critical of these punishments, right? And obviously, they do not advocate for the capital punishments, and they've on and off use these tools of aid and loan, something like that, to change our laws. So how can we, from the platform of the OIC, advocate and give them a counter narrative that these are the realities which suits our society, because Sharia as a Muslim is our law, which is a divinely sanctioned law, right? How can we give a more robust sort of a counter narrative to these Western voices, that are often criticizing them?
I think probably by exchanging ideas and by learning from each other, probably we can build a platform that we can go ahead. So as I've mentioned, the learning process never stops, never ends. And whenever we have such encounters between us, ombuds offices in the Islamic world, will truly benefit one another.
Right. And thank you so much, Mr. Tawfiq, for coming here. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much for
coming
having
here.
us.
It was a wonderful exchange of ideas. It was wonderful cross-pollination of ideas surrounding the law, the Ombudsman, and how as Muslim Ummah we need to have this combined platform. And I think as a Muslim we need to make our presence felt, because we have also been born and raised in this inferiority complex where we feel that we have been vanquished. It's not the case. We need to be more powerful. We need to tap into our potential as a Muslim Ummah, because these are 57 countries. And with that, we are going on a short break. After we come back, there has an interesting discussion lined up. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having a cross-pollination of ideas regarding the dispensation of the justice. And when we talk about the justice, the concept of the justice has evolved. It has also evolved to incorporate the climate justice in its new jargon. So what exactly is the climate justice? How can we incorporate Pakistan's stance into the climate justice, since COP is also approaching, and we need to be more vibrant with our conversation in order to show the world the seriousness of the situation and how we can make sure that the responsibility which the global West particularly bears towards us, the global South, it needs to bear that, and it needs to be more vibrant in fulfilling the responsibility and walk the dog. So
and be more climate change resilient. I think that's exactly what everybody wants out there as well.
Yeah, we need to be that, right? Yep. And without any further ado, we are very glad that once again we have been joined by an environmentalist who is very passionate when speaking about the concept of the climate justice, and particularly in the context of Pakistan. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Dr. Ijaz Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for
having me. Sir, it's wonderful to have you over here. Just, a basic question first of all. It's 1st of October. Where's winters for Pakistan these days?
Well, I think it is going to initially normal, but then later on there are predictions that I think with the coming rains, things will improve, and then winter will come. And I think there are predictions that it will be a harsh winter.
But is it an impact of climate change that we are witnessing such late winters over here in Islamabad?
Yes, of course. I think there are patterns which have actually, we have seen that over a period of time, the summers was also delayed. We had prolonged winter.
And then so there's a shift in the cycle.
There is a shift in the cycle. It's shift throughout the globe actually. Like, and then we are like facing more because I think we had 4 different weathers. So the like intensity.
But Dr. Saab, when we talk about the 4 different weather, thank you so much for highlighting that. And Lahore, it is said that the 5th weather is the smog, right? Yeah. And since we are approaching that season because smog is coming in, so now let's talk about the shrink winters, which Shahzad mentioned, because when we were growing up in Islamabad, we used to witness that the fall was very beautiful, but now the fans are still on, and I think the ACs are still on in a lot of parts of the country. So when we talk about the shrink winters and when we talk about the climate justice, how do you think we can make our conversations more vibrant so as to add more vigor into this entire conversation, and that too the momentum does not shift to something else because people are just tired of listening to this conversation? How can we do that and shift the conversation to the COP28, I think?
Yeah, I think it's important to like realize that this is something which is global. Okay. Yeah. It is not like well, we have contributed, but to a very small level. But then there are some like local issues that we, just as you mentioned about smog. Smog is an issue which we can ourselves solve to a great extent by improving our like those sources of pollutions which are causing air pollution. Improvement in the transportation.
Yep.
Vehicular emissions are 80% plus, which are contributing to the smog.
And the city has just introduced some electric buses.
That
over
is
here
one of the
well.
ways. Actually, that is a solution. But then these buses mostly have been introduced in Islamabad. We need the same actually response in Lahore and in Karachi as well, in order to actually tackle the situation of smog.
Dr. Saab, we've seen when we talk about the smog, we cannot discount the impact of the brick kilns in contributing towards that situation, right? Yes. So there was a lot of talk about zigzag technologies that should be introduced so that this phenomena can be curbed, or for example, the pollution that is coming from the brick kilns can be curbed. But where do you, we had those conversations before, right? Where do you think as a state we are standing on this entire situation? Do you think the brick kilns have,
they have adopted this technology, especially in Lahore. EPA is following it very strictly. And still, I'm sure that there are few which need some, like implementation of this zigzag technology. But according to the study which was conducted by Urban Unit in Lahore, the major contribution, 80+% is coming from the vehicles.
Okay.
From transport,
80%?
Yeah, transport sector, 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, trucks, buses. So they don't have, like that mechanism where they can, then the the quality of oil that is being used, we really don't know that what
And
kind
sir,
of oil.
what about the leftovers from farming, you know, because they used to
That
burn
is-
it as well.
yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that was one major cause
Yes,
as well.
that is another cause, which is open burning.
Yeah.
Open burning of even waste, open burning of agriculture waste. That is another,
Contributing
factor. And
Right.
this happens, like just before this.
Sowing of the
so-
cloth, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So can
And
we use
that-
it in Vanda or something, for the feed of the animals?
That is one of the area which needs to be actually looked into, and the researchers should actually. There are few scientists who are actually working on it to use it for maybe thatching, to use
Yeah,
it.
we
for
had this little girl,
brick.
who from the the agriculture leftover was actually doing something else as well. Do you remember Haja? This
There
girl
are
from
actually-
Qaid-e-Azam University who actually had this plant made
yeah,
where
yeah,
she
she
would
would-
put the waste in and it would produce something for the animals.
Bricks. There are like different.
Climate smart
Yeah.
solutions.
Exactly, there are different solutions, but I think we have not yet come to that point where we can scale it up to
Massively.
that level.
Yeah.
It's maybe at the laboratory level.
Yes,
so
and
far.
I think what is more concerning and worrying is, especially when we talk about the situation of the Lahore, is that it's close to our border, right? And the matter of the fact is that the farmers who are residing on the other side of the border, they're also contributing towards
Yes.
this
Yep.
situation, right? And the climate change, the smog does not know boundaries.
ये
it
हवा
does not
सिर्फ
know
हमारी तरफ ही चल रही है।
Exactly.
No, I read.
It's more polluted. Indian
Yes,
side is
I
more
read an
polluted.
article actually in which they issue some SOPs, or they issue some notices, notifications to the farmers that on that day when the wind direction is towards Pakistan, then they allow them to burn.
Right, right.
And I will try to find out if that is available on the net, still available. About 3 years ago, there was a notification from the Met Department issued by Indian Met
Yeah.
Department.
And I
that,
think
okay,
that's
now
very
this-
worrying, how it can
Yes.
be used as a
And
tool,
then-
is the weaponized, right? And we need to have more vibrant conversation because we are really short on time. So Dr. Saab, very quickly, since COP is approaching, what sort of conversations, number one, we need to have when we talk about the climate change? And Shehzad mentioned that we are really vulnerable to the impacts of climate change as a country, as a nation, right? How can we advocate for the funds that have been generated in the wake of the climate change so that the West not just commits to it, but also give out a dole out to the fund and make it more climate friendly initiatives that we can do in a poor South Asian
Because we're not
country.
able to tap on those funds because we do not have those programs which can actually get us those funds.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
not committing
there
it
are-
in the first place, right?
There are, so the Green Climate Fund is available, and Pakistan recently got a project on Recharge Pakistan, which is about 70 plus million US dollars. WWF, Government of Pakistan, Ministry of Climate Change, they are implementing it, and it just started
Wonderful.
about a month ago. Talking about climate justice, I think that is one of the area where when we
Right.
talk about loss and damage fund,
Yes.
that has to be implemented, and then all the donation that has been committed by different countries, especially the European countries, they need to develop a mechanism to actually start supporting
and
it.
we need to walk
No.
the talk on the climate loss and
Right.
damage fund, and this is very much important, and I think that should be the talking point, especially when we talk about the COP. But thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for
Thank
coming
you.
here.
It was quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was quick.
really
And in
short in
addition to
time.
this, I think, there's this one last thing, Haja, which I would love to mention over here, and that is that, because you have solar panels. Now, finally, we've got solar panels, and I think it will help while we are actually walking the talk over here as well. So we keep record, ladies and gentlemen. So just by putting in solar panels, ladies and gentlemen, I've saved, I think, my carbon footprint has reduced 2,928.5 kgs. I have standard, so I have saved coal at 1,174 kg, and I've saved 162 trees from being cut as well. So I think everybody needs to kind of play a role together. I think at times it does get a little difficult too as well. They're coming up with newer techniques where while walking, you will be producing electricity as well. I've seen
And
that.
we have been people on the show who talked about what actually Shehzad is mentioning, which are more climate resilient and climate friendly solutions. With that, we are wrapping up our segment, and after we are wrapping up our segment, and until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Sorry, sometime tongues crumble. Allah Hafiz and good morning.
So good morning.